What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas yesterday and that Hobby Santa brought you lots of wonderful little treasures under the tree. Today, we're a day late because of the holiday. It is the weekly sports card market update Monday edition instead of a Sunday. We'll probably end up doing the same thing next week. This video will post on Monday morning once again because of the holiday. But let's go ahead and dive into this week's stuff. We actually had, for the week of Christmas, kind of a lot of hobby-related stuff happened. Not like directly card-related, but things that definitely impact, well, some things shouldn't impact, but it will. And then, some other changes that are tangentially related, but have a major, or potentially have a major impact on the card, comic book / collectible space. Both of these we talked about already, so I'm just going to cover these very quickly. The first of those is the 1099 changes. That's what I have up on the screen here. Obviously, seek professional tax advice from an accountant. Just because you do not get a 1099 does not mean legally you are not supposed to report income. All income is income regardless whether you get a 1099 or not, but seek legal advice. But the big news here is that the 1099 reporting requirements have been delayed another year. This is a major talking point last year with the requirements going to $600 rather, now going back for I shouldn't say permanently going back, reverting back to what they were before for another year before this kicks in. I honestly would not, and this is just me talking, just a guess, I would not be surprised if this is not its final form. I don't think this is going to go away, but I would be surprised if it stays at a $600 limit, to be quite honest with you all. There's a lot of pushback on that. So I can see the limit lowering from the current $20,000 200 transaction threshold to something kind of in between. And once again, there are some states that is already dealing with this and have been dealing with this for years. So for some people, they're like, what are you talking about? Nothing's going to change for you all because that's state-based. But most of the country, that is not the case. So at the end of the year, get your stuff together, go make your appointments with your accountants, and start knocking that stuff out. And if you haven't really paid attention to this yet, once again, I recommend getting some sort of software to assist you. It's not very expensive, and it quite honestly saves you a ton of time in regards to tracking all your transactions. Next up, the other big thing that we kind of talked about was the Autopay thing kind of rolling out / picking up steam on best offer accepted. It had been in place for a while on buy it nows. It seems to be more prevalent. Some people in the comments were saying they'd been seeing this for 6 months or so. I saw a lot of chatter about it in the last week, so I don't know if maybe they just trickled this thing out months ago and kind of ramped it up this past week to how many people are seeing it. But it's automatically on for all sellers. It's just whether or not the buyer is affected by it is the way that it was explained to me, looking at the drop-down menus and also from the eBay rep that I spoke to on Twitter. And like I said in the video yesterday, much needed, and we will see if this rolls out to auctions. Are there going to be some kinks to work out? Yes. This is not going to be a perfect system. We'll need to work some things out. Right now, you can't use eBay spendable funds when you purchase this way, which would be a massive pain in the butt. I guess you could transfer the money out to your thing and then pay for it that way, but that just seems like something that they will get figured out and get fixed. So is this thing going to be perfect out of the gates? No, but it is at least nice to see at a glaciers-like pace, eBay potentially moving in the right direction to get us where we ultimately need to be, which is better control over auctions. And is this thing going to be, I saw some people saying, well, people will just do chargebacks or returns or whatever. Is this thing going to, is Autopay going to completely shut down eBay shenanigans and shillers and non-payers? No, but it'll be a massive deterrent. The problem now is that it's so easy because there's zero consequences. So there's no friction to even make someone have a second thought about doing it or not. With this, it just adds an extra layer of nonsense in that, to be quite frank, a lot of people will not want to deal with. They won't want to deal with the charge hitting the credit card. They may not have a limit high enough, depending on the card, to have it hit their credit card, depending on their situation. Then if you're talking about getting the card shipped to you and then returned, now you're on the hook for potential nonsense and shipping. Maybe there's just a whole lot of extra stuff that gets brought in. Then if it falls mid-cycle, is the charge going to be on the card before it gets returned, and then are you going to have to pay it and get a credit back? Just a lot of people will not want to deal with that, and that's the whole point, is that it adds a level of friction, a level of deterrence. If people still want to do it, will there be ways that they could figure out how to do it? Yes. But a vast majority of people, I honestly don't think will want to deal with it. With that, let's go ahead and kind of transfer into our market chit-chat side of things. We are not going to talk a ton of football or baseball today. We are going to be basketball heavy on charts and graphs, but a couple things I want to touch on. Baseball first. Topps just continues to just rain product on us at the end of the year here. I've talked about this the last couple weeks. I was going to dive in and do some breakdowns of recent prices, but honestly, things just have not settled yet enough. Topps Chrome update, singles prices are still all over the place, so we could talk about them, but I don't really think it does a lot of good because they have not settled in yet. So I'm just going to kind of let that marinate for maybe another week. Maybe we'll do that next week or the week after, kind of let those prices settle a little bit. Then we can kind of compare it to see how stuff from update is doing, regular update paper versus Chrome in the singles market, in the wax market. Obviously, update Chrome, kind of a messy product. We will see what happens with that as time goes on. It did, air quotes, sell out on Fanatics, but it's still up on Topps' website. We can see it here. But, and we've talked about this the last couple weeks, Topps just keeps releasing stuff. We got 5-star now. Bowman Draft is out. We just got Topps Chrome update in various different forms. Topps Chrome Black, triple threads. Going earlier than that, you had Bowman Chrome and Heritage and all that. Like, the amount of baseball products that have hit the market the last couple weeks has to be causing serious wallet fatigue on the baseball product side of things. It's ridiculous. I mean, I guess they probably wanted to get all this stuff out maybe to close out the quarter. I don't know. I really think they should have looked at this and said, like, hey, let's push one of these back a month. It just seems wild that this stuff just keeps coming. And I know, well, I mean, the Bowman stuff, I don't know how good or bad that class is, but obviously the mainline rookie class for 2022 product is loaded. Bowman wise, not my area of expertise, so I'm not going to sit here and talk about like how it's the best class ever or the worst class ever. I've heard that it's top end heavy, but the names that are on there, people are chasing, at least from a Bowman Chrome perspective. I don't know from a draft perspective, but I know it's always a very popular product. It's a product that ages very well from a sealed wax perspective, typically one that a lot of people like to gamble on. So we'll see what happens over time with those. But just Topps, calm down, my guys. Calm down. And, we're after the first of the year now. We are going to be on the fast track to baseball season. I know it sounds wild to say that, as myself sitting here in the Midwest is in negative 20 and 30 degree wind chills, but we're a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting. Not quite, a little over a month, but I mean, that's going to be the big thing. Obviously we're still in hot stove season. Correa's still trying to figure out physicals and all that stuff, but we're probably 5-6 weeks away from, the pitchers and catchers reporting. And then once that happens, you're in spring training and the hype cycle starts. So we'll see what prices do between now and when we get to the end of March. Do we have a normal kind of run up to baseball, or are we still in market correction mode? I think honestly, a lot of that depends on things that are outside the card markets world, like macroeconomic issues, and see what the first of the year looks like once we kind of get through the holidays. But baseball product, 2022 product, just keeps on coming. I'm very intrigued to see what Dynasty ends up being priced out at. I know it's not their highest end premier level set, but it's my favorite of the upper end stuff. Do we get a J-Rod RPA out of Dynasty, and what do those go for? And And I always like looking to see what the vet checklist looks like, because I really like the Hall of Fame stuff, Hall of Fame players out of Dynasty. But I'm a sucker for Dynasty. Anyone that's watched for a while kind of knows that. Football, I don't want to talk a ton about football. The biggest reason for that is just inside baseball. I am recording this in the middle of the week of NFL stuff going on. So I'm hesitant to, do a bunch of price nonsense when they could radically change depending on games. The one thing that I will talk about is, one, Zach Wilson looked terrible on Thursday night, and whatever a Chris Streveler is, I made this joke on Twitter and on community posts. His stuff really perked up this week, along with Gardner Minshew, and we will see how he ends up playing. That game is just getting ready to start, but one of the most consistent ways to just really do well profit wise, and it is, there's risk because they could just never pop off, but the whole backup quarterback game thing, it doesn't take much for these guys' prices just to go crazy. I don't know when we will learn. I would love, and I just don't have the time to do it right now. Maybe this will be it would take a lot of research. This sounds like a good video for Dakota. How many of these guys that pop off like this, Streveler, Jacob Eason, that 1 year at the National, these guys that just literally come out of nowhere for maybe a start, maybe a half a game, Zappy, the list goes on, and their prices spike because, oh my God, they had 6 good passes in a quarter. How many of those actually work out? Like, the people that are buying that on the upswing, I feel like the burn rate is 99%. Minshew is the one that's a little different, just because I think he lands with an actual NFL team as a starter next year. And I think he's actually a pretty decent quarterback. I always joked I kind of wish the Browns went after him when they got rid of Baker Mayfield. I would have much rather had him for the acquisition cost versus their current starting quarterback. But I've always really liked Minshew. And he's popular. People like him. They like his crazy style, the mullets, the mustache, is very energetic running around the field and everything. People eat him up. So I'll be curious to see. We'll look at his prices next week once things kind of settle in. But just the whole, this chasing the next thing with these third string quarterbacks, I just don't know what the end game with that is. I get it if you buy them when they're 30 cents. They're $1, you're buying autos for $5. But I don't get it when you're buying the same auto for $200 because they had a good quarter and a half. So football quarterback market will always be a space that does not make a ton of sense. Let's transition over, talk a little NBA stuff. The big thing that I kind of wanted to drill down on here is 2 different things. We're going to look at some rookies, and we're going to look at some, or not rookies, but recent rookie classes, and also dig into a couple players having absolutely amazing seasons on the other end of the spectrum. What I wanted to kind of dig in here on is, what are the last 2 rookie classes looking like in regards to secondary market values on silver prisms. 2020, I have it up here. I'll throw this out there. I always do whenever I talk about the 2020 class. It is very important to remember that LaMelo silver is skewed. The gem rate percentage on that is extremely low. I think it was a print defect. So that does influence pricing a little bit on him. Really, when you think about it, him and Ant-Man should basically probably be very similar in population count on PSA 10s, assuming everything that's equal. They were both the top 2 picks in the draft. Everyone, if you pulled a silver of those, you would immediately send it in, no questions asked. And you could see Edwards' population count is just under 1,000. LaMelo's is just over 200. To me, what has really kind of popped this year is potentially the best player in the class is Tyrese Halliburton. He is having an absolutely amazing season. Now, one of these is not sold in a month because it's only popped 96, but his PSA 10 Prism last sold for 406. When you look at that price compared to some of the others, that kind of feels like a steal. Edwards obviously having kind of a down season. coming off of what a lot of people were hoping was going to be his new level in that Grizzlies series. He has not replicated that this year. That team has been messy with the Gobert trade. And LaMelo, to be fair to him, is because I'm not someone that typically likes LaMelo very much. His numbers have been really good when he has played this year. Obviously, he has a ton of ankle injuries, and that team is also a dumpster fire. I have a very decent sized bet on their over-under on the under for their win total for the year that I placed before the season started. I feel pretty good about that. But Halliburton is the main guy. His population count on his PSA 9 is only 96. Or I'm sorry, on his 10. And I looked at the 9. It's pretty low, too. A lot of his stuff has not been graded yet. So essentially what I'm saying is if you see Halliburton stuff in the wild raw, it might not be a bad idea to take a look at it because a lot of his stuff has not been graded yet. I expect that to change. I'm sure a lot of his stuff is filtering the PSA now and other grading companies to be graded. But Halliburton is the real deal, man. He is single-handedly, I mean, they have other good players on that team, don't get me wrong. But boy, oh boy, he looks fantastic. And when you look at his prices compared to some of the other guys in that class that are more sexy, shall we say, and Halliburton plays for the Pacers, that's not going to help him at all. But boy, he looks like a good NBA player. A really, really good NBA player. They played the Cavs the other day. That's the first time I don't lock in on a lot of Pacers games. And he looks good. He looks really good. 2021 NBA class. Let's talk about this one really quick. Kind of the whole class, other than Franz, is off to kind of a meh start to the season. And I famously really love this class, and I still do. I think long-term, this class is going to age well. I don't care what people say that don't think this class is bad. Evan Mobley is sitting at about 3 to 350 for his PSA 10 Silver Prism. A little glitch in market movers. For some reason, it's not pulling prices for him, but I did pull up and look at recent eBay sold listings. It's floating just over $300. I'm not sure its population count is on that one. I'd have to look. And do keep that in mind when we're talking about the 21 NBA class. The PSA 10 pops are still artificially low because a lot of this stuff just has not kind of worked its way through the grading process yet. But just running through these guys really quickly. We'll start with Mobley because he's my hometown guy. Offensively, his game has not developed like people were kind of hoping for this year. He's been fine. He's just basically been the same as last year offensively. Defensively, he's a menace, and he looks even better defensively, and he's extremely important to that team. He is probably, so far, still the best player out of that class. His prices won't reflect it because he's a big, and his best skill set is defense at the moment. But a lot of NBA stars have really been Giannis specifically because they played the Bucks recently and the Cavs won. And I think he said this last time too. Basically said that guy's going to be special. Like, good luck once he kind of figures things out. And he shows some flashes. I forget what game it was where he like drained a couple threes in the fourth quarter. You could just tell like when he figures that out, look out. Now, hometown bias, all that. Like I'm a Cavs fan, so, but I watch a lot of him, and guy looks legit. I don't know if his hobby prices will ever catch on because, like I said, he's a big guy. He's a 4. Those guys typically don't catch on, and I shouldn't say not catch on, but they don't get mass market appeal, if you will. But we'll see what happens there. Franz having a fantastic season. Boy, that Bulls trade looks really bad, where they swapped Vucevic for that draft pick and some other players. Wendell Carter Jr. was in that deal as well. Franz is great. He's by far the most improved player from this class. Now, once again, we see there PSA 10 Silver Prism at 125. That sold 2 months ago. This is pop 12. He's another one. If you see his stuff in the wild, I'd take a look at it. See if it's clean. Might be worth sending in to get graded. People have kind of been sleeping on him because he plays for the Magic. Magic are going to be really good. They're actually on quite a hot streak right now. Paolo is really, really good. He's going to be a huge chase in this upcoming product. That's a good young team down there. And if they end up getting another really good lottery pick, look out. Scotty Barnes, the biggest disappointment of the season. Last year's Rookie of the Year. He's having a terrible year coming off the bench. Mostly offensively, still playing okay defensively. His PSA 10 silvers are going for around 200. Been a couple weeks since one of those sold. Once again, low pop on these. He would be an intriguing kind of slide in and buy low type of guy because he was really good last year. I don't know what's going on with him this year. He got hurt to start the season. I don't know if that just kind of derailed his whole season. He could be an interesting bounce back candidate. Cade, unfortunately, out for the year. I expect his prices to continue to fall. He's another one I really like long term. I like that Pistons team long term. Basically, rinse and repeat what I said about the Magic, but the Pistons just aren't as healthy. Jaden Ivey's looked pretty good so far. Cade looks really good, and they have a lot of other good young players on that team. And if they, once again, come in with a good high draft pick in an absolutely loaded NBA draft upcoming this year, they could potentially be feisty in the years to come, and I really like Cade. Jalen Green, uber talented. The NBA basketball IQ is not really all there yet. There's a lot of questionable things that he does, but man, can the guy fill it up when he wants to. I still really like him long term as well. I don't know that he's going to lead a team to an NBA championship or anything crazy like that, but the guy looks good. He could definitely, for sure, put the ball in the hoop. He needs to figure out like the NBA game. I don't think that Rockets team does him any favors because it's basically just a land of misfit toys. A lot of talent there, but a lot of like, this will be an obscure reference, but a lot of Ricky Davis vibes from that team. Anyone that remembers Ricky Davis from back in the 90s, he was on the Cavs for a couple of years. He famously shot the ball at his own hoop to get a rebound, to get a triple-double. That pretty much sums up him and kind of sums up the Rockets in a way. You kind of see a lot of that energy down there. But his PSA 10s are going for about the same prices as Cade's at $560. And for reference on this, these charts go back to late October. So this is most of the NBA season for these prices. So when you see the ups and the downs, that's kind of basing that off of. But yeah, Franz is probably the hottest player out of all those guys. Let's look at probably the hottest player in the league right now, coming off an absolutely monster game this past week, the Joker. Will he get a third MVP? He probably deserves it. The narrative will be people won't want to vote for him 3 years in a row. But man, oh man, is he putting up numbers. He had a monster game the other day. It was like 30 or 40 points and like 20-some rebounds. It was ridiculous. His stuff is pretty low pop on the Prism just because of the year that his stuff came out, 2015. PSA 10 silvers, pop 136. Base is only at 812. His silver is currently going for 2,700. His base is currently at 430. I ran this back to early October to basically cap the whole season. And you can see his stuff is actually up quite a bit. Silver Prism up 30%, base up 20%. Now, I will say, at least on the silver, because I went back further, since last summer, this card is down. It dipped over the summer, or I'm sorry, late into the, I guess, late summer, early fall. This dipped down, and now is kind of basically rebounding back to its price to end last season. So just kind of keep that in mind. Depending on how you look at the endpoints on this, can kind of swerve things a little bit. But needless to say, if you kind of bought the dip during the late off season, you're doing pretty okay right now. It's nice to see his stuff go up, 20-30% when he's having an MVP level season again, even in a down market. But the Joker's been an absolute monster. And then the last thing, I haven't looked at his prices in a while. I just wanted to pop in and take a peek at Giannis because he's also having an absolutely amazing season, and the Bucks are having an absolutely amazing season. I ran this back to right before the season started. Silver Prism has stayed flat in a PSA 10. That's a monster card, 15K. This is another one, basically rinse and repeat what I just said with the Joker Prism. If I run this stuff back to last NBA season, it is down quite a bit. But I wanted to go from the beginning of this season to kind of see, like, if you bought right before the season started, how has things kind of performed? And Giannis basically has been flat outside the select. Great season, great team, probably the favorites to win the East. Though the East is getting a lot more clumped together. It was the Bucks and the Celtics in a tier by themselves, then the Cavs, then kind of the Sixers, and then a bunch of other teams. What has happened over the last 10 days or so, the Nets and Sixers have really come on, and the Celtics have fallen back. And really, it's like those 5 teams are all almost clustered together now. I still put the Bucks above everybody else, and I still put the Celtics a little bit higher than the next group. But the Cavs, Sixers, and Nets are now all kind of clumped together, and the Celtics are contracting down to those 3 teams. So we'll see what happens. The day that this goes live, the Cavs play the Nets later tonight, and that should be a very, very entertaining game to see how that plays out. Giannis prices are basically flat so far this year, and he's having an absolutely fantastic season. He's dropped 45 on the Cavs this past week. Base Prism has been holding at around $1,000. The base hoops at about 350, and the select at 450. That one is down slightly. I don't know if that just had a high sale at the beginning or what. I always talk about this. My favorite of the low end Giannis stuff is the hoops one. I just like the image of him dunking. The base Prism one's not bad. I own a base Prism and a BGS 9.5. And then the silver is just an absolute monster card. Even in a PSA 9, that's like a 5K card, I think. So I don't know that I've ever, I've seen one at the National and stuff, but you don't even see them come up the market very often. It's only pop 71 or 77 on the PSA 10. So that is all I have for you boys and girls today. Hopefully, like I said, Hobby Santa treated you all very well. And then as we roll into the new year this week, a lot of this week's videos will be a lot of like collecting goals, things that I did or did not hit, top 10 lists of things that I acquired, a lot of that kind of stuff, a lot of the same videos I did last year, fun walks down memory lane, fun talking points. And then we'll get into some prediction stuff towards the end of the week. Probably. I've not recorded that video yet. I wanted to wait and do that. Some of the other stuff has been recorded. I have a PSA submission preview going out. Not sure when that video is going to go up, but I sent a small order off to take advantage of the $15 grading prices before that goes away. But yeah, end of the year. So we'll do a little look back and a little look ahead will be the big theme of this week. And then, like I said, I'll cover any news. If anything wild or crazy news-wise comes up, we might end up doing, double videos or something like that. Maybe a live stream early in the week. I don't know. We'll see. I'm off this week, so we'll see what happens. But catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.